All right, this is, well, I don't know that we put these in any particular order at release, so I don't know which number this is, but this is another supernatural podcast. But if you've been paying attention, you notice that the music under me is different. And it's different because this is a song called Me and JP, which is performed by our guest today, Mr. Matt Crowder. How you doing, man?
Hey, good to be here.
And of course, JP's here, too.
Yeah, I'm here.
We brought JP along for the ride.
Yeah. Don't forget, Matt wrote that song.
He did write that song. Yeah, he wrote it about some crazy stuff that you did.
I lived it, but he wrote it.
That's right.
Every
That's
good
right.
historian does.
And Matt's got a new album coming out soon, which we'll talk about as we get to the end of this podcast. So make sure you keep it locked in for information on that. But if you are new to our podcast, we're getting ready to hop into it, but a short introduction. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the two regulars here on this podcast. This is a little mini-series we're doing where we're talking to different folks about paranormal experiences and just trying to, get some stories going because JP has none. I have a few, but they're not really that good. So now, Matt, we're hoping you're going to step up. You told us you've got quite a few paranormal stories, which is I'm super excited for.
Well, I suppose that's how you look at it, but some people call it sleep paralysis, and other people call it being haunted.
Being haunted.
Yeah, I've heard people call it like the devil on your chest, stuff like that.
Yeah, the old hag, demon, that whole thing.
Demon sitting on your face, stuff like that,
But if you are a fan of podcasts, consider subscribing, even if you're just kind of visiting, because we do podcasts about any and everything from TV shows to conspiracy theories to what you're hearing now. It's supernatural. We are all over the place: iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, what's soon to be Podbean, all kinds of places. So if you don't typically like podcasts on YouTube, make sure you go find us in one of those. But without further ado, Matt, how long have paranormal things been going on in your life?
Not recently, but I think it started when I was like a little kid. I have this memory of being I was probably like 3 or 4 years old. I hadn't started school yet. And I woke up in the middle of the night and there was this green mist floating at the end of the bed. And so I crawled over to the edge of the bed and then there was a face appeared in this green mist.
And this was all while you were awake. This wasn't a dream. You were fully awake when this happened.
I felt like I was, yeah. I remember being terrified.
I would be.
That's interesting, man. Andrew, our last guest, talked about seeing a mist,
Yeah.
So that's, establishing a precedent.
A lot of times with hauntings, whether it's caught on camera or what, there always seems to be some kind of mist. I mean, that's like ghosts caught on camera. Mist seems to be, I guess, maybe how they materialize. What did the face look like?
It looked like, the best way to describe it would be like a burnt face, like a Freddy Krueger type of face.
Oh, wow.
It was just the face, though. There was nothing else. Almost like that scene from Wizard of Oz where you see the head and the
yeah.
Or what is it?
Zordon from Power Rangers.
Or yeah, kind of like that too. Yeah,
that's a good comparison. Just a floating face, more or less.
Yeah.
And it looked burnt.
It looked like it was burnt and scarred, like it was from hell or something.
And to your knowledge, has anyone ever burnt up in your house or in your family?
No. The house that it occurred in was built by my grandparents. Unless somebody died horrifically in the construction.
Oh, man, I'd check on that. You never know, man. You never know.
And never discount, what could have happened just on the land, be it settlers or Native Americans, I mean.
Oh, man, yeah, it could have been somebody was burned at the stake there. What if it, well, I don't know, was witch hunting a thing in our area?
I've never heard of it around here.
It was Salem.
Yeah.
Not too far away. It could have spread over here.
Who knows, man? I always like to, because with JP and I think JP, I don't know how to say you don't believe in ghosts, but you're less. I think that ghosts are possible, but I think a lot of reports that you see on shows, which I'm discrediting us here, but shows and podcasts, I think a lot of times it's just people looking for attention. But JP, you don't really believe in much, though, right?
I mean, unless it's something I've experienced firsthand, I'm much less, apt to believe in it, which granted, I've never been to the edge of the flat earth, but, I do give that a lot of credence. Nonetheless, I mean, I'm open to the possibility. That much I will say.
The earth can't be flat because mountains and stuff, they're not flat. So, I mean, even if it's not round, it certainly isn't flat.
No, let's not go down this rabbit hole.
I mean, all right, back to ghosts. But no, but Matt, so I love hearing ghost stories and just trying to figure out what could be at the root of it. And so how old did you say you were when that happened?
I was probably 3 or 4.
That's horrifying for a 3 or 4-year-old.
Yeah, and it only happened that once as far as seeing a floating face. But I always felt like I've been empathetic towards energies of sorts, if that makes any sense. I remember going to a Natural Bridge one time, and we explored the caverns.
Oh yeah. I love
they
Natural
take you
Bridge.
on tour down through there.
Yeah.
And then they turn out the lights and they tell you about this this childhood wonder down there, and her mother who followed in after her, and they never came out.
That's a true story?
Supposedly. And so I remember I never had an experience with that particular, those ghostly things as far as that cavern was concerned, but I remember it made me feel really, really sad.
Right. Kind of like you could feel, in a way, kind of you empathized with the mother and her daughter. Kind of you feel you'd be a great customer service rep.
No, I'm terrible at customer service.
That's the first thing they taught us when I worked in customer service, was you have to be empathetic. I didn't even know what that word was until I worked in customer service. But I don't know, man. Some people are in tune with things like that. Some people are, they say some people are more... is the word clairvoyant? Some people are more of a beacon for spirits.
Well, I don't know, but I've had near-death experiences when I was younger. So I don't know if that maybe opened it up a little bit. I don't know.
Oh man,
I'm only speculating here.
Do tell. How did you? What happened when you were younger?
Well, when I was a little baby, just being able to walk and then run for the first time, I almost ran directly into traffic.
Dear God.
Literally, my mom could not keep up with me. I took off running, and before she realized I was taking off, she was after me. But literally, before she could reach me, I was about to run right into the road, right into traffic, and that would have been the end.
It would have been the beginning of Pet Sematary.
Yeah. And literally, right before I got to the edge of the road, I tripped and fell.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So just a stroke of luck kept you from running out into that road.
And then another time, I was my grandma had taken me down, so we were on vacation, I think at the beach or something, and we'd gone to the swimming pool. Well, at the time, I was supposed to, wear those little water wings things.
Yeah.
I couldn't swim. I mean, I was probably, once again, 4, maybe 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I can't remember.
And nobody looks cool in water wings, so of course you were like, I'm not wearing these.
I mean, I was a child of the 80s, so everything is supposed to be badass.
The Ninja Turtles don't wear them. Why am I? You know.
So she's watching me. I say that with quotation, air quotes. And God rest her soul, she was a great lady, but she just happened not to be paying attention at the time.
Right.
And so I get further on into the pool and I just start sinking because I can't swim.
Oh man.
So the next thing I remember is seeing myself at the bottom of the pool.
Kind of like an outer body experience.
Definitely, yeah. I saw myself laying at the bottom of the pool. I was totally out of body experience, and I saw the woman who saved me dive in and grab me.
See, now that's something I find fascinating is outer body experiences, man.
Sort of like astral projection.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much, it's very similar, right? I mean, it's just taking your soul more or less and exiting your body, because it's some people have had these experiences and they hear and see things that are it's just no explaining, unless it's a huge hoax and they're all in on it just for the publicity. You have people that leave their body and can tell you what conversations were had in the waiting room at the hospital while they were coding on the table, and unless they all just collaborated, how do you explain that,
Yeah, it's the way that I remember it is seeing my body just kind of floating there at the bottom of the pool. And then this lady, she dove in, grabbed me, pulled me out. And then the next thing I know, I'm awake, lying on the ground near the pool. Of course, when I tell this story to my mom, like all these years later, I was recalling it, talking about it, and she was just like, well, she was like, you just know that because that's what people have told you. And I was like, no one's ever told me that.
Right.
Like, I remember it. Like, I remember seeing myself. I have the image in my head. And maybe it could be my brain is producing information that I'm filling in the blanks.
Right, yeah.
But ever since it happened, I've remembered it that way.
Do you remember if you felt any different, or like do you remember? I know it was so long ago, but like, do you remember like the feeling, or was it just a visual thing?
It was peaceful. Like I don't remember like feeling any pain whatsoever. I just remember like seeing myself and just being like, wow, that's me, like, and then watching someone else. Like, there's no way I could have seen that woman jump in.
Right.
Especially if I was in the midst of drowning or had been drowned.
That's really fascinating. Because you hear that amongst people that have near-death experiences. They always, most, describe it as peaceful. Like just this feeling of ease and like, like all the endorphins in your brain have just been released and you're just in this like state of nirvana.
I felt like very floaty. Like, I'm just kind of like, I'm over top of myself. Like, I don't know if I was like kind of still in the pool because I remember seeing the woman like crash through the surface down, going toward the bottom. So,
man, do you have any idea how long you were under?
I have no idea.
That's pretty crazy, man. What do you think about astral projection, like out-of-body experiences, JP?
I mean, I think the mind's a very powerful thing, and I think, we've speculated before that consciousness isn't generated by the brain. It's transmitted to the brain. The brain's more of a receiver.
Right.
So it's something I'm fascinated by, and I'm not, against the idea. Again, I think, like Matt said, the brain is also very good at filling in the blanks.
Right.
When it kind of blacks out. I know I've had a lot of alcohol-induced blackouts to which, you get little flashes of what may or may not have happened. So, I don't know, man. It's one thing I will say. I mean, Matt's not one to just embellish stuff. I've known him for a long time. So
that's why I like, that's why I was saying, like, I feel like a lot of people are full of crap on these things, but it's cool when you got somebody you trust and you know that you can trust what they're saying a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm completely open to the possibility that it could just be like some kind of machination in my brain, like forming this narrative, but I just remember it that way.
Right,
that's as best as I can put it.
I had a dream one time. I got bit by a rat, and I started floating above my body. But this was completely a dream. I don't think I've ever actually been bit, unless like that I did, and I died, and this is hell, and adulthood is hell. But so to actually experience that like for real, and I don't know, because when you go under, when you drown, man, I mean, that's just, they say, people always describe drowning as peaceful, but so it's like, but it's my biggest fear. Like, I don't like heights, but I think I'm more afraid of drowning than I am of heights, which is crazy because I love to be in the water. But and so that happened when you were younger. And so take us forward in the life of Matt Crowder.
Okay,
so moving past that,
like ever since I can remember, I've had like sleep paralysis. Like being, your mind is awake, but your body is asleep.
Now, yeah, that's horrifying.
I've got at this point, like I've gotten so accustomed to it that it doesn't really bother me anymore. But usually, and I've looked this up and stuff, but other people have experienced things happening while they're in that state. Mm-hmm. And like for me personally, I've heard voices, I've seen things. Like I remember, it's been several years ago, but like one of the craziest ones was like, I had been working a long shift, hadn't got a whole lot of sleep, and I was over at my mom's house, and I was like, I need to take a nap, and she's like, well, you can go lay in my bed. So I go and take a nap, and I'm laying on my stomach, and I had my dog with me, and I wake up to what feels like being licked in the face by my dog. When I open my eyes, the dog isn't there. And I go to push myself up, and I can't. It's like somebody's holding me down.
So you lay it on your stomach, you feel something licking your face, and now you cannot push yourself up.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm awake. I'm awake to what feels like my dog licking me in the face.
But instead, it was a demon.
Instead, it was nothing.
A demon licking your face.
Instead, there was nothing there, like, that I could visually see, but, like, there was, like, this oppressive presence because I could not lift myself up.
Right.
Like, I'm pushing on the bed trying to get up, and I could not move. I couldn't get further than maybe, like, half an inch, it felt like.
Man.
Like, I was just pushing down into the bed and not pushing myself up.
I've never experienced that, man, but it's so like rough.
I was able to turn my head towards the door, which is open to the bedroom that goes down the hallway. Like, this bedroom is the end of a hallway, and like from the bedroom you can see the living room, like all the way down the hallway. So I go to call out for help, and when I do, like my voice like catches in my throat, and the door to the bedroom closes. Just
closes shut.
Yeah.
Man, and so that's one of those things where, of course, someone could say the being held down and all of that is sleep paralysis. But I mean, like, that's something. So when you came to and you got out of bed, like, that door was still shut, like from where it had shut itself. That definitely wasn't a dream.
No, it was not a dream.
What do you think, JP? Just terrible timing? You think maybe a draft caught right as the sleep paralysis was pushing him down?
I don't know, man. I mean, I've had instances of sleep paralysis too. It's only been 2 or 3 times, and one time I think Loratab definitely had a contributing factor in it. But it is very terrifying, like sleep paralysis is. And as far as the door closing, I mean, there is a dog in the house, but I mean, I don't know.
Sounds like a demon was trying to get kinky, licking on your face, and he's like, all right now, son, boom, shut the door, we are alone now. So how long did you stay in that state where you couldn't get out of bed?
Because of those things that had happened, that was the most intense it had ever been up until that point. Like, I've had that since I was a kid. Like, I mean, since I was, like, old enough to go to school or younger, I don't know. Like, I just know I've always had those experiences of, like, my mind being awake, my body not being awake.
Right.
But, like, this was the most intense thing that ever happened as far as that goes. But, like, it probably lasted no longer than, 30 seconds to a minute or something like that. But of course I couldn't go back to sleep after that.
I imagine.
Then I had another time. It started happening frequently after that, pretty much. Like,
so that kind of kick-started like an influx of these.
Yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. Like, I started having different experiences. Like, one, I was laying on my back, and I woke up, and I couldn't move, and I felt like I was being held down. And then over top of me, like somewhere above me or around me, I don't know, I heard a voice speaking in a language that I could not understand.
Holy schnit.
It was like,
gone, man. Well, I guess you couldn't be gone because you were being held down. But, and how long? I mean, like, did that go on for a little bit? Or?
I mean, once again, like maybe like a minute or two. Yeah.
See, I love the theories on that, because of course the most normal being would probably say, "Oh, that was a dream. That was, your body was still asleep and you just were aware, but that was just your dream, kind of bleeding over into the waking." But I always have found it fascinating when some people talk. Have you heard of shadow people? Like the black, like just black forms, I mean, silhouettes of people.
Well, because this stuff started happening to me all the time, I started doing some research and like just to see if like. I heard sleep paralysis is common, so I started looking into other people's experiences, and I mean, there's some similarities. So, I mean, I don't know if it's like just a mass occurrence that happens when you experience sleep paralysis.
Right.
I mean, obviously it goes back into the olden days, like with the old hag thing, like sitting on your chest, that kind of thing.
Yep. And there's always also commonly a man with a hat scene. But it almost like some people, some people think that shadow people are not necessarily ghosts or demons, but that they're like these transdimensional beings that feed off of energy, and like they're attracted to. And I don't know, and this is just many different theories, but some people suggest that like when you have sleep paralysis, you're in distress, and that's why they're commonly seen, because they feed off of negative energy. And, of course, when you're in distress, and a lot of people report seeing them in times of turmoil in their house and things like that. So, I mean, it could be. And then who knows? Maybe they was like casting some kind of spell to suck your energy out of you or something, man.
Yeah, who knows?
The voice would have freaked me the hell out. Like the door shutting would have freaked me out, but I feel like I would try to like make that. I'd be like, it's probably a draft, or maybe because I'm asleep, somebody shut it and I didn't know it. The voice, nah, man.
Yeah, like, that was pretty wild, and like, and this all happened in my mom's bedroom. Another time, I was over there sleeping, and so it kind of changed in the way that it happened to me. Like, so as far as the paralysis goes, so it went from like me being awake and knowing that I was awake to being asleep and knowing I was asleep, but still fighting this process.
Oh man!
So like, it became like a thing of like, there is something like attacking me right now. I'm gonna fight back. So there was one time I remember, like, I was going through the sleep paralysis thing, and like in my mind, the solution was to get out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, like, I'm fighting tooth and nail, like barely able to move, but like crawling out of the bed, reciting like this mantra to keep me like focused on the task at hand. And so like right next to the bed is a dresser and a big mirror. So like I pulled myself up in the dresser, like I see myself in the mirror as I'm reciting this mantra. And when I look in the mirror, it's my face, but my voice changed to like a really deep demonic voice.
Oh, snit. Like this was a dream though, or this was really happening?
This was a dream, but this was like, but it was like in the process of the sleep paralysis.
Right.
Like you can almost feel it come on. You feel your body like tingles. You get like, you have this like warm sensation come over you and your body's like tingling, and you know what's happening.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like when it happens so many times, you just know it's coming.
It's kind of like people that have seizures sometimes can tell by a feeling like it's about to, it's another episode's about to come on. So you know.
So basically from there, like I crawl my way to the bedroom door, and as soon as I get to the door, I wake up and I'm fine.
So it seems that leaving the room is kind of,
that was it seemed like that was a solution as far as.
And this was your mom's room again.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't sleep in your mom's room ever again. Has she ever had anything like that happen to her while she's been in the room?
No, I mean, I've talked to them about this, and none of them pay any mind to it.
So it's just you. So we've got one room where you seem to have experiences.
It's not just that room though. It's happened many times. Like it doesn't matter where it is necessarily, but it happens a lot. It's happened a bunch there, and like where I currently sleep now. It's happened. Like I went from having like seeing things and like whether you want to call them hallucinations or not, whether it be auditory or visual, but from that into like almost like a projection type of thing.
Right.
So like the last time I saw any like it'll still happen occasionally, but like the last time that I really saw that I really had to like fight anything, I remember like I woke up. Well, I didn't wake up. I woke up in my dream after like the sleep paralysis hit, and like I'm pushed back against the backboard of the bed, and there's like this storm in the bedroom, and then this like huge man appears, like in gold armor with like a huge sword, and I close my eyes because like it's terrifying. For some reason, I know it's like it's malevolent,
Right.
And then like pretty much it forces my eyes open, but like I'm trying not to look, and there's like this storm all over, and like next thing I know, like I'm awake.
Jesus.
And so then like the last several occurrences have mostly been like me experiencing sleep paralysis, me fighting against it, and working my way. Like I live upstairs, so like I work my way downstairs, and by the time I get downstairs, I'm awake back in my bed.
Jesus. Man, I'm so fortunate. I've never been through sleep paralysis, man. I mean, that sounds like some terrifying stuff.
Yeah, it got to the point where like it happened so often that was my way, I guess, of like fighting it, because it definitely seems like something is attacking you. But like since those couple times where I saw things, I was awake, saw things and heard things, it's all been like visions now, like visions within the sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Of like, I don't know if it's me, like, you know, escaping my body and by means of escaping whatever's attacking me.
Right.
Or if it's just like a thing that my brain is creating for myself to get through that process.
Kind of like your subconscious kind of walking you through getting out of the sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
Which your subconscious can do some wild stuff. I mean, JP and I have talked about that before, just like the mystery of the subconscious. I mean, it's crazy how much better, like, your brain knows you than you do, you know?
Well, you know what I was thinking? You were talking about, you know, transdimensional beings possibly communicating to you when you said you were hearing voices in some weird language. You know, we've talked about DMT in here before, how it's widely accepted that the pineal gland produces DMT within our body, which is, by the way, an extreme hallucinogen found in nature, also produced by the body. And a lot of people think that is what produces dreams and sleepwalking, stuff like this, our body releasing DMT as we sleep. And if DMT is, like a lot of people think, a conduit to take our consciousness to another dimension, I mean, it could be one of those things where it kind of works both ways, you know? I mean, you've got these interdimensional beings traveling from the DMT dimension to you, you know, talking to you, holding you down, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's fascinating, man, what goes on in the brain, you know?
I was trying to look up connections between shadow people and sleep paralysis, and I think this one's more about like the science behind it, and nothing really kind of stands out to me. But I've always wondered if there's a connection, because my dad has had sleep paralysis, never anything super extreme. He's had, if you go back and listen to the first one of these we did, he had some experience where he had like some black mass just behind him, but you know, and he says he was awake. But I've always thought it was a curious idea that perhaps there's these other dimensional beings that feed off of the turmoil. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like they don't eat food in the way we do. Like they consume energy to get stronger.
Kind of like an It situation.
Yeah, It, like
Feeds
Freddy
off
Krueger. The more fear you produce, the stronger they get. But I don't know, man. And the face, the man in gold, the voice, I mean, I don't know. I want to draw a connection here. You need to write a song about all this.
Yeah.
Call it The Man in Gold.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then there's like other categories like the succubus and the incubus, both being the counterpart to each other, male and female. Like, I've had a succubus experience.
Do tell. I have never in my life gotten a real life succubus experience.
Dude, like, it feels like you're having sex.
And this is like while you're asleep, or?
Yeah, like, but it's similar to like sleep paralysis. So you can't move, but it feels like you're having sex.
See, I always wake up before the sex happens, and I try to go back to sleep. I'm like, damn it.
It's extremely violating. I mean, you'd think, you know, that would be a pleasurable experience, but it's not. It's like being violated, yeah.
And so it feels like sexy time is happening downstairs, but you're sleep you're paralyzed, and it's like a spirit's molesting you more or less. Yeah.
You're gonna think I'm goofing, but I mean, did it end with an emission, like a nocturnal emission? I mean,
no. Like by the time that like I was awake, by the time it stopped.
The only reason I asked that, I mean, what if they're trying to harvest like genetic material to make like an Antichrist baby?
I mean,
something?
Who knows what the purpose is? I guess just like talking about feeding off of energies, like that could be, you know, the succubus feeding off of male energy, incubus feeding off of female energy.
Yeah. You know, when I learned what an incubus was, it made me look at the band totally different.
Yeah, we're referring to not the band, but
yeah, the band came and molested Matt in his bed. Wake up! What are you guys doing here?
Whatever tomorrow.
Man, I love Incubus. I mean, not the entity. Please stay away. But the band, you know. But So that I've never had someone, and so the idea is that the energy coming off of you being sexually stimulated is something that the succubus feeds off of, that energy.
I have no idea. It only happened that one time.
Let me Google succubus. That is so interesting. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we've had ghosts, people talk about ghosts, aliens, never a succubus. That is, let's see, succubus. Let's see what it says a succubus is. A female demon believed to have sexual intercourse with sleeping men. No, that sounds like the gist of it. Let's see. It appears in dreams and takes the form of a woman in order to seduce men, usually through sexual activity. The male counterpart is the incubus. We know all of that. Huh. Is that just the one-time experience?
Yeah, that only happened once, yeah.
You think that perhaps you just didn't perform to her standards? She was like, I'm never coming back.
No, I woke up and willed it to stop. I don't know, it's a weird thing, being in sleep paralysis and being your eyes are open, you're awake, but you can't move.
Right.
You can't really talk, but you can see and you can hear, and it's just it's like a will thing.
Yeah. Now, see,
I will myself to be free of this.
Right, right. More than physical strength.
Yeah.
It's like a strength that comes from within type deal.
Sure.
You have to overcome it.
Yeah, I'd never had my eyes open when I had sleep paralysis, except for the one time I told you about where I felt like I was getting sucked up to the ceiling.
Pretty sure aliens tried to abduct JP to harvest his semen. But
are you sure he wasn't a succumbus if you were getting sucked up to the ceiling?
That's true.
I don't know, man. I wasn't getting pulled up dick first or anything. But, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't had sleep paralysis for a long time, but I did have a few instances of it, and I never got my eyes open, but it was horrifying, man. It's awful.
My dad says that he sees shit, and my dad's not a supernatural kind of guy. I'm not saying he doesn't believe in that stuff, but he's very rational thinking. Sure. And if you say, "Dad, it's a ghost," and he's like, "You're just being a wuss. Go back to bed." It's. But he does. He's like, I see shadowish people. He said, I don't know if it's something wrong with my eyes or what, but I always in our house, I see clear figures of people, but the second I go to look at them, they're gone. And he's like, and it's to the point where I'll make sure I don't look at them, but I am, you know what I mean? He doesn't turn his eyes or head to them, but he'll kind of just stay still for a second, and it looks like people. And I don't know, the thought of otherworldly entities feeding off of our energy, I find it fascinating. It's not necessarily a spiritual thing. It just could be an entire, another species. I
think they're traveling from the DMT dimension. Like I said, our pineal gland produces DMT, and people who have experimented with it say you travel to another place and communicate with entities not of this earth. I think it has a lot to do with that.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with energies too. You can get vibes off of people, right?
Right.
Just with anyone, you can, whether someone's even speaking to you or not, they can have their back to you, but you can almost feel if they're upset or
right.
or angry or whatever, especially anger. Strong emotions, you can kind of get a sense of that stuff from people, because a lot of times when people feel that way, whether they're aware of it or not, they're putting out that energy.
Right. Well, it's kind of like how people know they're being watched.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You hear stories of people that maybe go outside at night. I was listening to one where this guy said that he went outside to let his dog out one night, and it's he just felt like he was being watched. Just this sudden feeling of being in danger or in something's crosshairs, and then ended up being a mountain lion or something at the edge of the woods. But this is something he does every night and never has had an issue. And it's just, I find it fascinating that we can perceive things like that.
Well, I think it's instinctual too. I think it's survival, and getting vibes off of people, as far as it. Yeah. I just thought about something.
Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Have you ever messed with a Ouija board?
No, I don't think so. But I have this weird, kind of like you have a memory. I have this weird memory of messing with the Ouija board at a friend's house, but it was so long ago that I can't remember if he pulled it out and I was like, oh, hell no, put it back, or if we actually messed with it. But I don't have extensive experience with one.
Well, despite my parents being skeptical about some of the things that I've experienced, I remember since I was a little kid, my mom was adamant about never playing with a Ouija board.
Right.
And just because of the things that have happened to me, I've never used one or been a part of using one. But like I remember being at a friend's house, maybe it's about 5 or 6 years ago, and they were all into it. There's like, we're gonna light some candles, we're gonna, try to talk to some ghosts.
Right.
So they went into another room. I refused to go into that room, just because it's just not my thing. I don't mess with that stuff. Like I take some of that stuff seriously. I don't know if I should or not.
Better safe than sorry, right?
And talking about perceptions, like I had gone into the kitchen, and I came out of the kitchen, and I got this vibe of like someone sitting on the couch. No one was visibly there, but like I just felt like somebody was sitting on the couch.
Right.
So, another person that was in a different room, like we were all, like some of us were hanging out in a different room, and then the other people were in there using the Ouija board. And so I told this other person about this, and I was like, hey, like I just felt like there's somebody sitting on the couch and there's no one there. And they were like, well, I'm going to go in and ask them and see what happens. So they go into the room with the Ouija board. They tell the people about it using it. So they start asking questions. And I mean, like, some people, it could be the Ouija board is just a power suggestion.
Right.
But
right.
like, when they asked the Ouija board, was there somebody sitting on the couch? Like it responded with yes. And like they asked different questions, and like, but the Ouija board, like the power suggestion,
right,
confirmed that there was somebody on the couch.
I don't know, man. I'm like you. Even though I don't, know what I believe in terms of ghosts, I just don't care to risk it with a Ouija board. Like I know some people will be like, it's just a Milton Bradley or, one of those companies makes them. But I'm like, man. I've always been taught, like, if you reach out to the spirits, then you're pretty much giving them
if you
permission.
Look into the abyss looks back into you.
Right. Like you're giving them permission to come into your life. And it's just one of those things where the logical side of me is like, man, it's just kids, But then the, somewhat spiritual side of me is like, hell no. JP, what do you think a Ouija board is? Do you think that's just people, both like not meaning to, but, moving it kind of?
9 times out of 10, yeah. But I don't know the history of it.
What about that 1 out of 10 times? What do you believe?
Man, I mean, that's the variable, who knows?
It could be like, see, sometimes I wonder if there even is a spirit world, if it's not spirits, but like I said, like other dimensional, because really when you look at like the Bible and heaven and hell, I mean, what are they but other dimensions? I mean, you don't get to heaven by going straight up. I mean, you don't get to hell by digging down. I mean, they are, which I actually have heard some Christians do believe that like hell is actually under the crust of the earth. So I'm like, what happens if a meteor hits? Is hell gone too?
Yeah, all hell breaks loose.
But, so, I mean, what are they but other dimensions?
See, like I've also wondered, like, is a Ouija board kind of like a Santa Claus situation? There's always one person who's in on it.
Right. Yeah. I like scaring people, so I'm not going to lie. If you're with me and my hand is on that Ouija board, I'm probably going to try and freak you out. Like, I enjoy frightening people,
yeah.
So I would totally be sliding it to whatever answer or letters would freak you the hell out. But, I've heard, I actually read a story, and I'll never forget, it was a long time ago, probably 10 plus years, but I was reading, we were looking for haunted places in our area, and because I live 30 minutes away from here, and there's not really anything haunted there. So we were looking for places in Danville, because in our minds, Danville was like the big city. There I go giving our location away again.
Oh, well,
but people have figured it out by now. But like there was apparently this girl put on like it wasn't Reddit, but maybe it was 4chan or something that she got like there was this report of like this girl that got like possessed by a demon or like stalked and sexually molested by one here in Danville after playing with a Ouija board. And I really would like to go back and find that. But man, that would be like a needle in a haystack after all these years. But yeah, and she did it in a cemetery on a grave, which is just, I think it was the big cemetery, the big one.
The one we go to?
Yeah, the one that me and JP is referring to, yeah.
I think there's, did you talk about the stuff you found there?
Yeah, we actually did a video. It's on the Patreon page. Yeah, and I have more that. Maybe that's something good to talk about on another podcast. I've got some more voodoo kind of stuff going on around the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
It definitely was like voodoo in nature. I mean, somebody could have just been screwing around, so people like us would be like, "Oh God, it's voodoo," and freak out. Well, but it looked legit.
What's interesting too is like a friend of mine who's seen things since he was a little kid. We've talked about this stuff before.
Yeah,
and he claims to actually see like representations of whether it be ghosts or whatever. And he's also like he's big into history, like we are. And one of the things that influenced the end of me and JP was this occurrence that happened with my friend. He was in that same cemetery, and was walking around one day, and he came upon this man dressed in like period clothing, like from the 1800s or whatever. So we thought it might have just been like some like reenactor, like
yeah, that would be my first thought.
And then he realized that this wasn't a reenaction; this was like a spirit of some kind. And the spirit said, "You don't belong here."
Yes, sir. I'm out.
So he got the hell out of there. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So he saw, and you said he commonly sees spirits. Now, is this somebody you trust? Like
yes.
you don't think that he would just say that stuff to?
No, like I mean, this isn't the only thing that's ever like. His mom, his sister, him, like they've all had like experiences like this.
When a ghost says that could have like different meanings. Like you don't belong here in the sense of like you're alive, or like maybe the ghost was offended that he was there. You wonder what he could have meant by the statement.
Smelled
you don't
his
belong
Yankee
here.
Blood, Confederate soldier.
That's true, but I don't know. That's really interesting, man. I love to dig into that. Like, what could that mean? You don't belong here. I mean, like
it was probably a thing of like, you're exploring my resting place,
right?
I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
Like you're exploring my resting place for fun,
right?
So get out.
This is a place of death, and you're here for fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, I told JP, man, I really want to start doing some like urban exploration, or maybe even checking out haunted places. I mean, I definitely don't want the channel to become a supernatural hub because there's a lot more that we like to do. But I've thought that would be a cool little side project, is go to some like haunted locations.
Yeah, I mean, like it's to me like as far as like when I say fun in the cemetery, I mean not like mischief or anything like that. Just like literally like looking at some of the old style like headstones and like some of the monuments that they've created, because like some of that stuff is very ornate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't really see that anymore.
Yeah, JP and I have taken several lunch breaks to go to that cemetery just because we both enjoy walking around and looking at like the. What do you call the big
obelisks?
No. The big where you put multiple bodies. Like I'd buy one for my family, and they would put mausoleums. I don't know why I had a brain fart there, but like some of those in our cemetery are beautiful. You know what I mean? Like they've really. So no, I enjoy looking. We got
a great picture of one that's like it had the stained glass and the sun just happened to be shining directly through. We got a cool picture right there.
I wonder, that's so interesting. I wonder, can you go there at night, or do they lock it up?
I don't know about locking it up, but I mean, I would imagine they do. But
I would love to go at night.
I think it's pretty much like until dark,
right? Because I would love to try to see this man. Which I mean, it might just be one of those things you have to be able to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that if it was a spirit, maybe it knew that it could see. It could see him the same way that he could see it, obviously, and it.
Yeah, I don't think they locked the gate on that one anymore, because I took my granny Nana a while back, and I was just like, "Hey guys, when do y'all close the gates? We don't want to get locked in here." And I'm pretty sure they said we don't really worry about it anymore, but there's ways to get in there, even if they do. Believe me.
Well, most cemeteries I know don't even have gates. Like, that one just happens. I guess it's just because it's older.
That one used to have a lot of vandalism, man. Like I talked to a groundskeeper when I was in high school, and he said they had to actually get like security cameras up because people were going in there kicking over the tomb. I mean, you see lots of tombstones just laying there.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like JP said, we'd never do it, but there was one that was kind of like already about half broken. It's like, how powerful would you feel if you could just be like, bam, kick it and break the tombstone in half? Of course, we're not assholes, so we wouldn't do that.
I think a lot of the vandalism, because it's like a Confederate cemetery largely. It's got like a Robert E. Lee memorial and all that kind of stuff. So
That's interesting, man. Has that guy told you about anything else he's seen?
I mean, just random stuff like his sister was being haunted or supposedly haunted, and like it turns out that a man had died in the house that she was staying in, and apparently he wasn't like a nice man. So like he said that like a lot of this stuff was happening upstairs. Like she would have stuff in her room, and she would come back and like a pair of shoes would be sitting on the edge of her bed, you know, that weren't there before.
Right.
He said that he went over there one time to like help her like get her stuff because she was afraid to like really be in the house by herself. So he went upstairs, and as he was going up the stairs, he said like the stairs just like started like snaking, you know, like undulating, you know, pulsating or whatever.
Holy crap. Kind of like some Inception type stuff.
Yeah, like some really like, you know, like he this person I'm referring to just tends to see a lot of things as far as we're used to. But you know, I played at Berry Hill Mansion, you know, a couple weeks ago for their festival.
Yeah.
And I had an experience on stage.
This just the other week?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you know, we gone a couple songs in, and then next thing you know, my mic cuts out, and there's no monitor, there's no main. I don't know if it was a ghost or if it was just a shitty sound man.
Right.
But probably the latter. It was a shitty sound man. Yeah.
But Berry Hill's got such a history of being haunted.
I've talked to people who work there, and they claim it's all true.
Oh man, I can tell you, and I'll tell you just a second because this is about you and not me. But just to tell you while we're talking about it, yeah, I've had some weird experiences in Berry Hill. My best friend worked there for a couple of years, and a guy drowned in the pond. And since then, they've gotten a lot stricter. But I'm talking like you used to could just go down there. I'd go down at 10 o'clock at night, and we'd just go walk around and explore it like it was wide open. Like we'd pass the security guard. He'd be like, "Evening, how y'all doing?" We're just going up and down the steps. But, you know, I've been sitting there, and it was one night where it was about 11 o'clock, and we got a beer from Darby's Tavern, and we're drinking a beer, shooting pool. And we hear, I mean, it's no mistaking footsteps, you know. Sure. Sometimes I think people, when they're asleep, they get footsteps and swelling wood mixed up. You know what I mean? This was footsteps, just somebody was walking above us. So my buddy gets on his radio, and he's like, and I don't know the girl's name, but he radios like, "Maria, who all is working tonight?" And she said, "It's just you, me, and Barry," or whatever the security guard's name was. We knew it wasn't him because he was down at the hotel part of it. We had just seen him on the way up there. And so he goes, my buddy heard it too and was like, "You want to go check it out?" There's only one set of stairs that leads to the attic. There's no other way to go down. And I mean, we went straight from hearing the noise to those stairs, went up. And I mean, the attic is scary as hell. I'm not kidding you, man. It is the scariest attic I've ever seen. There wasn't a soul up there. And, you know, we're just like, okay, what the hell? You know, it didn't really scare us so much as it was like, okay, that might have been something. But I've heard some stuff. They had a ghost hunting crew out there one time, and I think they confirmed like 30-something spirits supposedly are there. We should go stay there one night. We should go.
Hey, I'm down to go to the tavern and at least drink a few.
Hell yeah. And then we'll think we see stuff.
Yeah. Just drink till I hallucinate. But,
it's just Matt snoring.
Have you ever talked about like Gravity Hill and like Satan's Bridge and all that stuff?
Well, you know what's funny is we had another guest. I guess at this point you might have heard him. I don't know what order we're releasing these in, but he told us a really cool story after we got off the mic of his dad, who was a police officer, and like some cultish activity down at Satan's Bridge. But Gravity Hill, I think we have one of those in my town, which is it's called Calford. No, not Calford Bridge Road. It's crap. We got this bridge. It's a similar deal where you get pushed up a hill.
Yeah.
And it is the most bizarre thing because it's a straight up hill, and you put it in neutral and you go up it. And then JP was telling me about Gravity Hill and a Kingswood Bridge. That's what it is. And I was like, man, we have one of ours. I'm really interested in Satan's Bridge. Do you have any stories from that?
I mean, like I've hung out and drank under there. I've done that before.
The life of a rock star, man.
Well, it was just there was a girl involved. There was something to do, you know. But like, really, I mean, all it is just like there's like a bridge that it's like filled with graffiti. And supposedly, like, there's been rumors of the whole, like, cult activity thing going down there, like Satan worshipers and all that stuff. But literally, it's just like a bridge. You can get up under there. There's like maybe like a little creek bed or something underneath. And, like, you can crawl up under there and, like, just hang out. And, like, cars, you can hear cars going over top of you and all that stuff. But it's really, I mean, you see, like, symbology, like, but it's mostly, like, people just graffitiing, like, 666 or putting pentagrams up or whatever, and then their names and, like, their sweetheart or whatever the hell, you know. So anyway, we just go up and under there and smoke cigarettes, drink beer, and, you know, listen to music. That was pretty much my one experience with it. And we never had any sort of, like, you know, ghostly encounter or anything.
My friends and I all packed a car full of crowbars and baseball bats back in like 2007 and rode up here and we're like, we're going to Satan's Bridge. Nothing happened. Like, we got on it and we were going real slow and just like hoping and waiting, and which, I mean, if something would have ran out or something, we probably would have all crapped our pants and died. But, you know, at the time, we thought we were ready to catch some. I got the video somewhere, but it does have a crap ton of graffiti on it, though.
Yeah.
Well, man, what our old teacher, Lancaster, told me is there used to be a farmhouse not far from that bridge, and the farmhouse is where all the freaky stuff happened. He said there were, like, spikes on this wall and all kinds of weird stuff. But, you know, the house has long been torn down. But
was it cult stuff?
Yeah, he said it was really freaky stuff in there. Like I said, like it looked like they had animals chained up and stuff like that.
Like the 60s and 70s, man. That's like when you had a lot of cults and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying you don't now, but I mean, people had less to do then. I feel like, you know what I mean? Less distractions, so more time to focus on things like cults.
Well, there's still that presence out there, man. So who knows?
Thought of cults do scare the hell out of me. While I'm skeptical on ghosts and spirits, like the thought of a cult is freaky. Just these mindless followers that
they exist. That's the thing. They do exist. I mean, look at like David Koresh or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Jones, all of these people that just can brainwash. And I mean, like Jim Jones brainwashed like hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like one of the biggest mass suicides ever.
Let me see how many people died with Jim Jones. I'll tell you one cool thing, JP. You said you haven't seen American Horror Story Cult, but to see Evan Peters play Jim Jones was pretty awesome. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He played Jim Jones, man, and he was awesome. Like it was not the whole show, but he. Look, I said how many people died with Jim, and the first thing that popped up said Jim Beam. But let's see how many people died with Jim Jones. I'm curious because cults are 909 people committed suicide. Yeah. That is insane. Almost 1,000 people were convinced to kill themselves by one man.
Yeah.
You know, so cults are terrifying, man. Like if you were to stumble upon a cult and then the leader told them to kill you, they probably wouldn't.
I mean, there's been cases too of like where people were forced to drink the Kool-Aid as it would be. But
I think I've read accounts of that.
They refuse, like people get shot, you know, like just wiping people out, you know, for no reason really.
Yeah, that's some freaky stuff, man. But so back to paranormal. Do you have any other experiences? You've given us some crazy stuff, man. Probably some of the most eerie, because we had our friend Jessie on and she gave us a lot of experiences, and they were all super cool, but none of them were really like whatever haunts her is just like a happy-go-lucky hippie ghost, you know. It just it's just being nice. And then our buddy Andrew was on, and all of his stuff was pretty harmless. But you've actually had what I would consider, at least compared to our other experiences, some sinister stuff go on.
Yeah, nothing right now is calling out to me as far as any more experiences. I'm sure that something will come to me after we get done with this, and I'll remember.
There was a time when I literally saw Satan. How did I forget that? But yeah, speaking of supernatural, if you haven't already, check out Matt's song, Me and JP. You can download it wherever music is streamed, and it's got a very eerie vibe to it, and it's got a cool twist to it, you know. So go download that, and if you listen to the podcast regularly, how could you not want to hear a song written about the exploits of JP?
It's true. And you really ought to message us. You know, if you're interested in his new album, we can certainly find a way to get it to you.
Absolutely, man. Are you gonna put it on your website at some point, or?
Yeah, the album's gonna be. Plan on doing a physical release the 16th of August, but I'll probably have it online like not too long after that.
And the name of it is The Hammer and the White Hot Heat?
The Hammer and the Hot White Heat.
White Heat. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's it. And you said I've got a rock track that I'm going to play on our rock station, so it's really cool. So you've kind of got a mix of genres on this album.
It's a mixed genre, but it's not too far like apart from each other. Like it all makes sense.
Right.
As far as like the album kind of tells like a musical story in a way. There's like interludes and stuff to give context to certain songs, and we try to make it more of an experience and less of a collection, you know.
That is so cool, man. Yeah, you guys definitely go check that out, man. Support local musicians. And I know that he's not local to you, but he's local to us.
Artists,
yeah, just people out here making music. And like I said, man, really check out Me and JP. It is the perfect backdrop to what we're talking about today, you know. But yeah, JP's actually aside from Me and JP, but you have a little guest appearance on the album, right, JP?
Yeah, I helped voice something. It took a few tries, but it's just like a preamble to to Me and JP.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was dark. I was trying to go in a little bit of a different direction. But that's what a good director is there for, to keep you on track.
Yeah. I imagine who was directing you, Matt?
Yeah,
I'm sure Matt had his hands full.
Yeah. It was a cool thing about the album. Like I put in a lot of work initially, and then it was me telling people, "Yes, that is good. No, that is bad." You know,
good sucks. Change that.
Maybe let's go this direction. Maybe maybe less sexually suggestive and more.
That was JP, right? That was definitely directed to JP. Were you taking our joke of the remix of Me and JP?
No, I didn't go that far. Although I think it's still a good idea.
Oh, well. Check that out. So, again, and Matt, what's your website? Is it mattcrowdermusic.com?
mattcrowdermusic.com. I don't know if it's still in operation. I let go of my publicist, and she was running it, so I don't know if it's still up or not. But you can find me on Facebook, though.
Find him on Facebook, and like I said,
Google,
check that out.
Amazon, iTunes, all the good stuff.
All that good stuff. I'm going to your website right now. I want to see if it's still up and running.
It's probably offline, probably. I hadn't looked.
What if it just says, like, F you, Matt Crowder?
It could very well say that.
No, man, it's working.
Okay.
It got your logo. It's got an option here. Let's see. Go buy albums.
Can I see?
Yeah, man.
Can you go back to the homepage?
Yeah. Let's see. Actually, nope. That just took everything away.
Okay, so yeah, like 4 months ago, she said she was going to update the website, and it still looks the same.
Well, you know what, though? At least you can buy albums off of it. Well, we probably won't be updated with the new album.
I would just don't buy it. Either buy it directly from me or just get it off like iTunes or wherever.
But you're in for a treat, man. Get the album. I promise you won't disappoint. I met Matt. Matt and JP have known each other since they were young, but I met Matt years ago, I think, separate from JP. I don't think I met him through you, did I? You just came in to play music, right? Like, or did JP recommend
I think it was the old like original music, like the homegrown music show thing you guys did.
Yeah, that's right. I came in to do a couple songs for that.
Yeah, so definitely find Matt Crowder on Facebook. What's weird is there's another bearded Matt Crowder on Facebook.
Yeah, and there's another Matt Crowder out there like making music that's like hip hop club, like dance electronica or something like that, which is not me.
Right.
So,
if it's hip hop, it ain't Matt Crowder.
If it's like this weird electronic music, then it's definitely not me.
Not that you wouldn't dabble, if you know.
I mean maybe one day, but right now I like to play real instruments. So.
Absolutely, and if it's the Matt Crowder with glowing green eyes, that is also not the Matt Crowder that we're talking to.
Yeah, I got baby blues, baby.
Yeah, so check that out. Find his music. And Matt, thank you so much for sharing your experiences, man.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope talking about them won't stir them up again.
I was going to say, you're going to go home and it's just like, oh, okay, we let him go, but he wants to talk some schnit. Succubus, come on, jump on there. The man in gold is what interests me. I feel like, and that could be a subconscious
Yeah.
your subconscious telling you something, but that just sounds oddly specific.
To me, it seemed like an agent of hell or something. Like, I don't know.
Like golden armor, it suggests to me like the Archangel Gabriel, but demons more likely than not parade around as angels. They disguise themselves.
Well, there was no sense of like, be at peace. Like, I can't remember. There was like an instance of one of the angels appearing to somebody, and he said, fear not. This was not the case.
Right.
This was like, I mean, when I say a huge man, I mean like as tall as the ceiling, and like imagine if like the mountain from Game of Thrones was like standing at the foot of your bed, but even bigger.
Jesus.
And in armor and like holding a sword.
That sounds biblical. You know what I mean? That sounds like some ancient figure, man. I don't know. You could have. I mean, I don't know. Does the Bible ever mention the devil having generals? Because you hear like stuff like the devil's got generals.
Well, I'm sure he has his minions of sorts. I don't know. I don't.
If you know about this stuff, comment in the comments section. Of course, this will be released to Patreon first, and then a week later it will go. Well,
I mean, like, all right, so okay. Well, I mean, I guess it would be logical to say that like he has to have like some kind of like hierarchy of some kind, because he wasn't the only angel to get thrown out of hell.
Right.
I mean, out of heaven, rather.
Yeah, and a lot of common beliefs about the devil don't even come from the Bible. They come from works like Dante's Inferno and stuff like that.
I had heard that. That's why I was asking about the generals, because, I think I read somewhere that the Bible doesn't actually even say Antichrist. Like, that's just
There's a lot of stuff from, like, Catholic dogma over the years. Like, I don't think it's, like, 7 circles of hell. I don't think that's from the Bible. So
yeah.
It's a lot of stuff out there, but which isn't to say it's any less valid, I mean, who knows?
Well, some thoughts are that the devil is not a commander at all, that he's a prisoner. He was hell's first prisoner. He was cast out of heaven into hell, and he was technically hell's very first prisoner.
Yeah, I mean, and like he basically, I guess, like he led an uprising in heaven.
Right.
And he and his cohorts were cast, him being the leader and then them being the followers. So I'm assuming they have some kind of place of power within his domain,
I wish we had some audio clips of Al Pacino from The Devil's Advocate. He's a sadist. I'm a fan of man.
Well, I'll tell you real quick before we wrap up, I did see an interesting. Now, this is fan fiction. This is like a fan story or creepypasta or something, but it was a very interesting thought, because, some Satanists don't believe in Satanism in the way of like, let's murder babies and sacrifice. Like, they see Satan as, God is this very conservative, old school dad, more or less, and Satan is given such a negative light by God, because Satan is the one that's like, man, screw it, have sex, like,
do what you
explore, like he inspires creativity. And some people think but there was a really cool story I was listening to on a channel. It was either a channel called Lazy Masquerade or Corpse Husband. These are Facebook, YouTube narrators. They just read stories off Reddit. But it was like this girl kept seeing this little girl named Lilith or Edith or something. And anyway, the woman's name was Eve. Well, come to find out, Edith or Lilith or whatever the little girl's name was actually Satan. And the whole story was not as we were led to believe in the Bible. The story was that God created the angels or whatnot, and then Lilith had created Adam and Eve, because, like, I guess God didn't give the angels, like, pleasures. It was some reason why the devil thought it needed to create. But it created Adam and Eve and made them perfectly happy, and that God was actually the snake, and they bit the apple and it gave them mortality or something else. And anyways, it basically was like God was after, I don't know, it was just a really cool reversal of the roles. Like, God wasn't the hero in that story, that the devil actually had given life to mankind, and that's why, and God was jealous, and he was supposed to be the only God and the only thing called God, and that's why he casted them out and all of that. It's a really cool story. I hate that I butchered it the way I did, but it was.
I've heard stuff like that too. Like the Gnostics, they believed the God of the Old Testament, totally different entity than like Jesus. The God of the Old Testament is just this evil bastard, smiting and cursing and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of hard to argue with that. Ask Job.
Dude, Job, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, in the Bible, he lost everything over a bet. over a bet. What was it? Satan bet God that the only reason he praises you is because you give him all of this and that. So God's like, okay, watch this. Bam, your kids are dead. Yeah, man, bam, your wife died. Bam, your livestock's dead. And then Job still praised God, and he all got it back tenfold. But they don't replace his wife and kids that died.
He still went through that. I mean, imagine just being like a regular average Joe Egyptian, and one day just your firstborn son up and dies because God's got beef with the Pharaoh,
Right, yeah.
I mean...
Which that's Old Testament, though.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying. The God of the Old Testament, the Gnostics, a lot of early Christians believed was totally different entity than Jesus. Jesus is who freed us from that evil God.
Well, I don't know. I don't pretend to know dogma and all that stuff, but it's pretty interesting, if nothing else.
Oh yeah, it's just fun to ponder, to think.
Yeah, because there was like sacrifices in the Old Testament.
Oh yeah,
and then Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice, and that's why we live under this new law now.
Yeah, Jesus was kind of like the T2 Terminator, He went back to, right all the wrongs, and he had to sacrifice himself.
Thumbs up as he goes.
Yeah.
As he ascended on the third day, he was just like looking down with 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Then I imagine his feet went up first, and as he goes into the clouds, it's kind of like Arnold's, lava thing, but instead it's clouds, and you just see the thumb go all the way up to the clouds.
I know now why you cry.
I don't know, but it's interesting. Leave us your thoughts in the comments section, man. Fill us in. This whole podcast is just to inspire discussion. If you've got experiences, share them with us. If you've got insight on something religious or spiritual that we just butchered, please correct us. Let us know. Inform us.
Definitely let's hear about that sleep paralysis, too. I would love to hear other people's experiences.
Yeah. We're not opposed to having listeners as guests, so if you have sleep paralysis stories that compare to Matt's or that you can empathize with Matt, let us know. Maybe we'll have you as one of the guests. This is going to be a limited run, but who's not to say we might not do, little 5-6 episode, runs of this for a while. I'm talking in comic book terms, of course, with runs, or duty, but But I think that's going to wrap it up. Matt, check out Matt's album again, Matt Crowder. Check him out on Facebook. You can buy the album there. It comes out the 16th?
Yeah, 16th of August.
There's so many dates this month. I can't keep up with them. The 16th of August this month. We're pretty excited about that. JP, I will see you in the morning. What's it, mail call tomorrow morning?
Yeah, we're going to answer some letters.
I guess that's irrelevant for this podcast, though, because you might be listening to this. It might have came out on a Friday, so but now this was recorded on a Wednesday. Yeah. But so I'm Justin.
And I'm JP.
And I'm Matt.
And we're the Podcasting Dead, plus Matt.